Whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on, Illuminators? Shiny ones. See right through you. Juggernauts. Powerful and unstoppable. Benevolent Terminators. Living from the inside out. Spirit, soul, and body. All three. In agreement to take care of business from the inside out. Starting here, that's who you are. If you're not in here, you need to get in there and find out who you are. All right, and then you come up here, but get here first. Right? Observers, participators, priests, oracles, legislators, sons and daughters, princes, heirs, all of the above. Boston C here, Boston C. Hope everybody's doing well. Overcoming here, below the sun. Striving to thrive in your own lane. Taking out your own trash daily. Dealing with your own unique dimensional reality. Creating your future. Living in the now and just let your future show up. Take the pressure off. Living in Hakuna Matata. No worries. Peace. Peace. Be whole and complete. Ooh. Go check us out. AboveTheSun.io. AboveTheSun.io. Start practicing P48. QRST. Beware of those quantum entanglements, your assignments, the right relationships, right? Where there's synergy, synergistic trading, value for value, character for character. Yeah. Right. How about some free energy? I think you just got some free energy, right? We're episode 5. Austin C just musing free energy. But what we're going to do, we're going to get started. We read the prologue. Dr. Bruce is back. Going to get into chapter 1. Won't read the whole deal. This one is going to be lessons from the Petri dish in praise of smart cells and smart students. All right, let's get into it. Right? So we know we got about, I don't know, 50 trillion cells. So you need to kind of, each cell is alive. It's a you, each one. True story. You mean I can be in 50 trillion places at one time? Oh, catching on there, big boss. Boss of your own deal. Not the bigger boss. Big love. Big brother. That's how you're a juggernaut. Powerful and unstoppable. Because that's the relationship that unlocks all the spiritual intelligence. But let's get down here in the physical and let's see how do we take the spiritual intelligence that we know and how do we make it fit in the science. Let's just get started and just listen to the vibration of your body, right? Because you're electromagnetic plasmatic being, right? A creature, a kisses creature. Ooh, love it. All right, let's go. This is Dr. Bruce telling a story. You got a story. Tell your story. Just write your story and make that happen. I heard it said one day. On my second day in the Caribbean, as I stood in front of more than 100 visibly on edge medical students, I suddenly realized that not everyone viewed the island as a laid-back refuge. For these nervous students, Montserrat was not a peaceful escape, but a last-ditch chance to realize their dreams of becoming doctors. Honor all the doctors, the real integral doctors. When you know better, do better, that's all. My class was geographically homogeneous, mostly American students from the East Coast. All right. Some from Boston, I bet. Huh? But there were all races and ages, including a 67-year-old retiree who was anxious to do more with his life. Love it. Their backgrounds were equally varied. Former elementary school teachers, accountants, musicians, a nun, and even a drug smuggler. Despite all the differences, the students shared two characteristics. One, they had failed to succeed in the highly competitive selection process that filled the limited number of positions in American medical schools. Two, they were strivers, intent on becoming doctors. They were not about to be denied the opportunity to prove their qualifications. Most had spent their life savings or indentured themselves to cover the tuition and extra cost of living out of the country. Many found themselves completely alone for the first time in their lives, having left their families, friends, and loved ones behind. They put up with the most intolerable living conditions on that campus. Yet with all the drawbacks and the odds stacked against them, they were never deterred from their quest for a medical degree. That's called doing hard things. Well, at least that was true up to the time of our first class together. Prior to my arrival, the students had three different histology cell biology professors. The first lecturer left the students in the lurch when he responded to some personal issue by bolting from the island 3 weeks into the semester. In short order, the school found a suitable replacement who tried to pick up the pieces. Fortunately, he bailed 3 weeks later because he got sick. For the preceding 2 weeks, a faculty member responsible for another field of study had been reading chapters out of a textbook to the class. This obviously bored the students to death. But the school was fulfilling a directive to provide a specified number of lecture hours for the course. Academic prerequisites set by American medical examiners have to be met in order for the school's graduates to practice in the States. For the fourth time that semester, the weary students listened to a new professor. Briefed them on my background and my expectations for the course. I made it clear that even though we were in a foreign country, I was not going to expect anything less from them than what was expected from my Wisconsin students. Nor should they want me to, because to be certified, all doctors have to pass the same medical boards, no matter where they go to medical school. Did not know that. Then I pulled a sheaf of exams out of my briefcase and told the students that I was giving them a self-assessment quiz. The middle of the semester had just passed, and I expected them to be familiar with half of the required course material. The test I handed out on that first day of the course consisted of 20 questions taken directly from the University of Wisconsin Histology midterm exam. The classroom was deadly silent for the first 10 minutes of the testing period. Then nervous fidgeting filled the students one by one, faster than the spread of the deadly Ebola virus. By the time the 20 minutes allotted for the quiz were over, wide-eyed panic had gripped the class. When I said, "Stop!" pent-up nervous anxiety erupted into the din of 100 excited conversations. I quieted the class down and began to read them the answers. The first 5 or 6 answers were met with subdued sighs. After I reached the 10th question, each subsequent answer was followed by agonizing groans. The highest score in the class was 10 answers, followed by several students who answered 7 correctly, guesswork. Most of the rest scored at least 1 or 2 correct answers. When I looked up at the class, I was greeted with frozen, shell-shocked faces. The strivers found themselves behind the big 8 ball. With more than half a semester behind them, they had to start the course all over again. A dark gloom overcame the students, most of whom were already treading water in their other very demanding medical school courses. Within moments, their gloom had turned into quiet despair. In profound silence, I looked out over the students and they looked back at me. I experienced an internal ache. Class collectively resembled one of those Greenpeace pictures of wide-eyed baby seals just before the heartless fur traders clubbed them to death. My heart welled. Perhaps the salt air and sweet scents had already made me more magnanimous. In any case, unexpectedly, I found myself announcing that I would make it my personal commitment to see that every student was fully prepared for the final exam, if they would commit to provide matching efforts. When they realized I was truly committed to their success, I could see the lights flash on in their previously panicked eyes. Feeling like an embattled coach revving up the team for the big game, I told them I thought that they were every bit as intelligent as the students I taught in the States. I told them I believed their stateside peers were simply more proficient at rote memorization. Never was a fan. The quality that enabled them to score better in the medical college admissions test. I also tried very hard to convince them that histology and cell biology are not intellectually difficult courses. I explained in all of its elegance, nature employs very simple operating principles. Rather than just memorizing facts and figures, I promised they were going to gain an understanding of cells, 50 trillion that are all uniquely alive. Yeah, those cells. Because I would present simple principles on top of simple principles. I offered to provide additional night lectures, which would tax their stamina after their already long lecture and lab-packed days. Students were pumped up after my 10-minute pep talk. When the period ended, they bolted from that classroom, snorting fire, determined they would not be beaten by the system. After the students left, the enormity of the commitment I had made sank in. I started having doubts. I knew that a significant number of the students were truly unqualified to be attending medical school. Many others were capable students whose backgrounds had not prepared them for the challenge. I was afraid that my island idyll would degenerate into a frenetic, time-consuming academic scrimmage that would end in failure for my students and for me as their teacher. I started thinking about my job at Wisconsin, and suddenly it was beginning to look easy. At Wisconsin, I gave only 8 lectures out of the approximately 50 that made up the histology cell biology course. There were 5 members of the anatomy department who shared the lecturing load. Of course, I was responsible for the material in all the lectures because I was involved in their accompanying laboratory sessions. I was supposed to be available to answer all course-related questions asked by the students. But knowing the material and presenting lectures on the material are not the same thing. I had a 3-day weekend to wrestle with the situation I had created for myself. Had I faced a crisis such as this back home, my type A personality would have had me swinging from the proverbial chandeliers. Interestingly, as I sat by the pool, watching the sunset in the Caribbean, the potential angst simply morphed into an exciting adventure. It's called perspective, vantage, either an advantage or a disadvantage, or an adventure or a disadventure. We choose. I began to get excited about the fact that for the first time in my teaching career, I was solely responsible for this major course and free from having to conform to the style and content restrictions of team-taught programs. I'm going to leave it there. But the next time we're going to talk about cells as miniature humans. Yep. I mean, there's 50 million miniature Boston Seas in there? Absolutely. Just start connecting the dots, man. Just lean in, shoot straight and lean in. All right? So let's just leave it there. Stay in the way, stay in the path. Love, big love. Practice loving big, starting with you. All things are possible. All things. Just get in the game. Drop the cross. We need the wood. Until next time, Boston Sea. Up and away.